So we'll go ahead and get started. We have a lineup of 10 speakers tonight, so we're going to try to keep on time. So this is our second week in the City Engage series. Come on in, guys. So this is our second week in the City Engage series. This one focused on the Riverway proposals to the waterfront, the Riverways. I'm reading this. I suppose we're holding a lot of different events during the week to try to get people's opinions. The main focus is to get your opinions and your comments and your aspirations. So we have a big comment box here where we want you guys to give us these comment sheets to fill out, to put your comments into cityengage@limerick.ie. And really, there's a whole bunch of interactive events during the week. The first one that we're starting off with is the Pecha Kucha night. I mean, this is just about getting as many people and a wide variety of opinions as possible about their aspirations for the Riverway. So this week is really looking at how we can get local knowledge and local input into looking at all the possibilities for increasing public access to the Riverways, the opportunities to enhance the tourism offering for the city, to get people into Limerick, particularly connecting to the river, looking at the public spaces along the riverfront, and then hopefully all of this will go into forming a design brief for whatever proposals we have for improving the Riverway. So we're going to start off with our first speaker tonight, who is Dave Neville. So Dave is from Neville Water Sports and Rock Climbing, which was set up over 13 years ago. He's a key county player. He operates the Limerick City Adventures based from the Hunt Museum, offering kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, boat sailing tours, raft building, archery, tag, team challenges, Limerick City treasure hunts, and much more, as well as Limerick City's only indoor rock climbing wall. Over to Dave.
Hi guys, thanks very much for having me here. So Dave Neville is my name. I'm here from Neville Water Sports. Sorry, I didn't start the joke, but anyway, from Neville Water Sports. We were set up in 2004 down in Kilkee, County Clare, and about 4.5 years ago then we set up our indoor rock climbing wall up on Sexton Street in Presentation Secondary School, and about 2.5 years ago we set up the first kayaking tours on the river. Originally we set up just across the way on this Curragower side, and the lads used to look after us here in the bar, and then we were fortunate enough for the Hunt Museum to allow us in to use their back garden, so they wanted to use the river side there, so you can see your group getting ready to go out in the water in the back garden of the Hunt Museum. So yeah, we started off, I suppose, with as I said, a van from just across the road on this side with small numbers, 6, 8 people, and as things got busier, and the feedback we got from people in Limerick, and they were loving the tours up to King John's Castle, taking in the trees. The group started to get bigger, and we obviously needed to expand, so we did that over by the Hunt Museum. We've single, double, 3-seater kayaks. The sit-on-top kayaks, as you can see, the participants are using are very, very handy, because I suppose maybe the enclosed kayaks, whenever somebody capsizes, they could get a little bit of a fear or a fright in the water. The sit-on-tops are fantastic because you can't get trapped in them. So if you flip over, your life jacket keeps you afloat, and then you can simply flip back in them again. The singles, doubles, and 3-seaters means we can take kids from 5, 6 years of age up to King John's Castle. The tours themselves, I suppose, incorporate, a lot of fun. There's some kayaking skills, there's adventure, and there's even little bits of history that we do on the different buildings around the city. So from that we went on to some bigger groups, so now we're getting school tours, youth reaches in Limerick City, and getting on the river a lot more. And I think you can see with the pictures, the kayaks are lovely and bright yellows and reds, and it's fantastic to see, just an expansion or an increase of number of people or boats on the water. School tours, birthday parties. We're also getting a lot of corporates and sports and socials from businesses around Limerick that are coming to us, and they're having a barbecue in the back of the Hunt Museum then after, which is great as well. After the kayaking, we set up with the stand-up paddleboarding. This chap here was just at Paddy's Day parade, so we had if you dress up in Paddy's Day outfit, you get out for free. And then we got the use of the lily flop boats, which were Scouting Ireland's, and we started to do boat tours, which was an expansion of what we were running as well. And that just enabled us to allow people that didn't want to get into a wetsuit to actually sit on a boat, just to put on a life jacket, get straight on the boat and take a tour up to the city. The lily flops were great. As you can see, they had a sail as well as an engine, so you could also turn off the engine, put up the sails and get people to sail around in Limerick, in the heart of Limerick City as well, which is fantastic. This was during Heritage Week. Again, the weather was fantastic, and they were allowing us to take people up, eight people out at a time, which is great for Heritage Week, for any group really, and for Riverfest, which is coming up. So kids are able to have a little go on the engine. They're only 5 horsepower engines. Adults get to drive them. Some of the masts come down, so you can go further up towards Ardna Crusha, or further out towards the estuary. Just said I'd put in then, obviously, I know this is a river engage, but it's on everything that we do in Limerick. We have our indoor rock climbing wall, which is up in Sexton Street. We have kids open sessions, adult open sessions, and we now have a lot of kids that are on the development squad. So the rock climbing is going to be introduced in the Olympics in the next 4 years. So we have 2 or 3 kids that are part of that Irish development squad now, which is fantastic. This is some of the kids obviously at the climbing wall. Villiers School, 4th years, transition years, birthdays, and all of that that goes on. We also do archery, tag archery, and team challenges up at the rock climbing wall as well. So, from there as well, team challenges for groups at the back of the Hunt Museum. So they're very into, I suppose, opening up the back of the Hunt Museum because it's on the riverfront. We get lots of groups there doing team challenges, especially corporates and sports and socials and that. So they might do some water sports, some archery, and some team challenges with us. And our newest thing that we've set up is a Limerick City, so it is Engage the Riverside, and we have a lovely app where people that have iOS or iPhones, they can do this treasure hunt. So they start at the Hunt Museum wherever we are. There's 20 clues, and they go right around from the Hunt Museum all the way back around. And there's 20, either historical, some are fun, some are challenging, and that's a Limerick City treasure app that we've just set up as well. So that's what we'll be pushing, hopefully. There's just some of the archery and some of the tag archery. So tag archery is, they've got the muzzles on the front of them. We do that in the presentation. Otherwise, people in the museum will be getting arrows all over. The next thing that we're just going for is obviously the Riverfest that's coming up this weekend. So we're running a first Riverfest kayaking competition where we're going to be doing, I suppose, War of the Weirs, the name is kind of given it. So we've got lots of people from the clubs and that, and there's a prize and a cup and that. So we're going to challenge ourselves and go off the weir. And that's pretty much us, guys. We just have a couple of leaflets and flyers that will be by the door. Hopefully we get you all on the river. And a lot of you obviously have been on the river, but whoever hasn't, certainly give us a call. We'd love to get you out for a bit of historical fun and adventure in Limerick City. So thank you very much.
So we'll have, at the end, we'll have 5 speakers, and then we'll have some sessions for questions. So our next speaker is Miriam Logan. Miriam is with the Limerick River Path Volunteers since 2011. Started the old Limerick Navigational Towpath from the Park Canal to the Lassie. Limerick River Path Volunteers have been clearing litter from the banks and the waters. We've also organized nature walks and mapping and heritage week events and planted normally they're aiming to conserve and enhance waterways by facilitating people to take action and by allowing for bigger improvements in the areas. So, Miriam, you want to go to you?
Hi, so I'm Miriam, and I formed this group with Dr. Gabriella Abram at UL. We were both working at the Interaction Design Centre there, and we used to commute on the old river navigation towpath. So we used to take the Park Canal to River Shannon and then go up the towpath to UL, which we found to be probably the best kind of commute in Ireland, because you had all this peace and quiet to clear the head after the day, and it was warm up on your way in the morning. So one day we noticed though that when we came back after Christmas, there'd been very high water and there was rubbish everywhere, and it was caught in all the willows. And we thought, this is, it had been swept downstream and there was an accumulation of rubbish. So we set up a group to help clear the rubbish. So we pretty much operate on social media by inviting anyone who's interested to come along, borrow a boat, shopping trolleys, wheelbarrows. Off we go down the towpath, and everybody hauls rubbish out, and the council would then take care of it for us. So then we went on to a few things, but this is the Black Bridge at Clancy. So the Black Bridge is from Limerick to Clare, and it is where horses going up the towpath towing barges would cross over to the Blackwater Canal and on upriver and on to Dublin. And it's in an altered state at the moment because it's been closed since 2009, which is a shame because it had been used a lot by fishermen. So we held a Heritage Week event there, got people to speak about their memories of the place, got people to speak about the history of the place. Was built in the 1840s. It's got beautiful old ironwork. The only thing wrong with it is we discovered that the piers are compromised by years of wear and tear. So we are hopefully going to get it reopened. This one is the Grudy Bridge. This is the old boundary between the city and county, over the Grudy River on the same towpath. And I thought it was the most elegant one. It was the tallest one. And Smarter Travel was set up some years ago, and they wanted to upgrade the path. So I was pretty concerned about this bridge, and this is what they did, which I would consider to be really a butchery of our industrial heritage. It is over-engineered. They used the wrong stone. And this is all so that people could cycle much easier. I found it as a cyclist to be a natural traffic calming. You would ring your bell going around the corner, the hill would slow you down, nobody would collide with anybody. Here's another bridge on the same thing, on the same towpath. The same thing's happening, and it's quite an accident waiting to happen, to be honest. So this is why when we hear of plans for upgrades to Riverways, it's sort of, our blood runs cold, basically, because we know what can happen after even a lot of money being put into it. Now here's the Park Canal. And this is Troy's Lock on the Park Canal, and in the 60s, I think, welcome corrections on this, when the Park Canal stopped being used so much, this is between the Abbey and the Shannon, somebody put a concrete slab under Troy's Lock. This means that when we're organising clean-ups, we have to get a boat like that in one side and a canoe in the other because we can't go up and down. And this means that it's really hard to haul stuff out of the water. Limerick Civic Trust are doing a great job of keeping the pathways along the canal clear of litter, but so much of it goes in the water, and it's very hard for us to get in there and clear it. And it's also incredibly overgrown with willows, which are creating more and more silt, and the thing is closing up. This is the Corbally Baths. Now, as a native Galwegian, the thing I miss most living in Limerick is a nice place to swim. And everybody over the age of 40, 45 would tell me that the Corbally Baths was where they spent a lot of their summer. Here's it in winter. Sorry, we'll be able to get that reopened. This is Castle on the Lax Weir. So this is a medieval building built to protect the Lax Weir, which was at the time the best fishery in Ireland because every salmon coming up the Shannon had to pass through it. This is in a terrible state. It would be wonderful if Limerick and Clare County Councils could get together because it's right on the boundary, do something about it. Here is the Abbey River as seen from O'Dwyer's Bridge. Now, to the right here is the path that would take you up the Abbey bank, over the railway tracks and onto the Corbally Baths. And I gather that was a much used path at the time. It is also incredibly derelict, overgrown. There is so much litter. We could only clear one ditch one year as a sample and then realised we couldn't keep going because the bank itself was silted up with all of the willows. So this is all we got from a couple of square metres and had to stop, basically. This needs a lot of work, but it could be a fantastic way up to Corbally. Even if the baths weren't reopened, it would be another nice loop, and it would mirror very much the loop of the island. Now here is the salmon weir from Thomingate to King's Island, and you can see if you're a bit upstream of it, you get a lovely view of the city and all its kind of iconic towers on top of it. At the moment, it's just there for cormorants to pose upon as they dry their wings, but it would make a fantastic pedestrian crossing from there. Again, it would encompass up here. I don't know if this is your crowd or not, but Pat took us out on the boat one day, and Imelda May was doing her sound check in the castle. And when the tide's in and the water is full, sound just carries, and it's beautiful. And it really makes me think it is a privilege to be out on the river. It's not a right to be out on that river. It's a river, and as you can see, twice a day it does this also, and it's noisy and it's wild. And I think to try and design some sort of a footbridge upon this site where there's a confluence of rivers, there's a tidal waterfall, I think it's more algorithmic than architectural, really, because there's so much dynamic range to the river itself here. This is the Sylvester O'Halloran Bridge from Pet Museum to the Potato Market, and I find it really charming from here and from the perspective just a little bit down the Strand here. I think it's a lovely, lovely bridge, and I'd hate for it to be made redundant because it's my way to walk to work 3 days a week, and at the moment the sand martins are back and they're nesting there. And here's poor old Limerick Boat Club, and got its roof torn off in a storm some years ago, and
2014.
You'll never forget. Yeah. And it would be fantastic to help raise funds to rebuild this roof, because after all the work that's been done along the strands there, it really is sticking out like a little sore thumb. Dotted in red here are the ways you can already walk around the Shannon in the city centre. I think it's kind of nice, and it mirrors the nature of the river itself, that on one side, the side of the Strand, you have this little elegant sweep of a walk, it's uninterrupted, it's flowing. And then once you get into where the rivers meet, it goes all higgledy-piggledy. I find that interesting. I also find that if you block off traffic, if you bring it all along on a footbridge, you'll close down Nicholas Street, essentially. It's already suffering a lack of footfall, and for those reasons, hopefully, and there's probably more, but we say no bridge here, along with the local clubs.
Our next speaker is Deirdre Power, who's also our photographer for these events. So Deirdre is a socially engaged artist, and her practice focuses on situations where citizens participate in the development of the city.
Sorry, I repeat that. I don't know if I tried to make it work that the slides and the talk would go with one, so I'm actually really, that's okay. So my practice is, as been said, there is the notion of creating situations where citizens are actively participants in the city and the future development of the city. It focuses on engagement through community interaction and social discourse. I'm referring to a project back as far as 1983 when I was a child. I'd like to share an urban intervention project went into, as I said. So basically, I'd like to quote from Henry Lefebvre, who was an urbanist. The urban is defined as a place where people walk around, find themselves standing before and inside piles of objects, experience the intertwining of the threads of their activities until they become unrecognisable, entangled situations in such a way that they engender unexpected situations. So high unemployment, massive immigration, government budget scandals and closure of non-established businesses in the city back in 1903, and the constant unrest in Northern Ireland fueled the practice of emerging artists. During the protests in 1983 set the mood for further interventions. The socio-economic situation formed the backdrop of a student collective called Deuce 5. I've used some images from the newspaper in the presentation that I gave some time ago in the show, and I just wanted to kind of put them in context with how I feel this kind of everything is running, So the socio-economic situation formed the backdrop of the student collective Deuce 5, Opus Tensors, and Opus Tensors set up by Andrew Carney and myself. Furthermore, against the backdrop of growing public impatience with drawn-out planning for a new bridge across the Shannon, sometimes referred to as the third bridge, Deuce 5 decided to make a modest proposal. This is a map from 1983. The project began in early 1983 as first-year students at LSAD were asked to examine the concept of place and space through a land art project. That's me in the boat, Raimi. The primary aim introduced the students to the possibility of public artworks and to better understand the role of the artist, not simply to remain in the studio, but that we have a responsibility in the public, and it is necessary to expose oneself to the responses and reactions of that public. The project drew on the work of Artist Placement Group, established in England in 1966, by placing artists within the public and private industries, and experimental investigations to potential for new relations between art and industry. The group believed it could offer radical insights to social problems. The incentive encouraged use of fire to approach subtle chemicals to use heat to help support Project Main Third Bridge. The output provided all materials necessary to fill the roof. So the image is coming up now. The third bridge was facilitating analysis of several interlocking issues, the linking of diverse and contrast locals, the presence or absence of the citizen from the planning process, which is very important. The Shannon Bridge was finally completed in 1989, 14 years after the first bridge order was submitted in 1975. Early in the morning of June 10th, Juice 5, we recall, volunteers made their way from the back entrance of LSAD, located on Mary Street, to the city centre, past the then City Hall and Patrick Street, and onto Arthur's Quay. From there, the third bridge was unfolded slowly and lowered into the quay to a waiting boat and gently glided across the river. It was a cold but calm day, the tide had full, with the assistance of the Limerick Marine Rescue to ensure their safety on the day. The third bridge was constructed from 180 polystyrene bricks or flagstones strung together, bracelet like a 280 metre long nylon rope. The upper surface of each brick was coloured yellow to evoke the yellow brick road that took the young Darty Gill into the Emerald City, home of the wonderful Wizard of Oz in the 1938 film, The Wizard of Oz. For others, it evoked Robert Smithson's 1970 spiral jetty at Great Salt Lake in Utah, USA. The next few slides kind of demonstrate the project and how it unfurled. We had about 3 colour images, unfortunately, at the time. It was black and white. The photographer was Peter Cutting from the Art College. And these slides belong to Andrew Carney, who documented it. It was quite a spectacular view. Unfortunately, shortly after, about 6 in the morning, when it was the first tide, a resident of Clancy, Strand, was angry at the disturbance and cut the third bridge free and it began to float down the river. As you can see, it was soon retrieved and the damage repaired. 3 days later, we again gathered to reposition the third bridge. This time, the night-feeling residents remained calm, but a wind blowing up the river, a strong ebbing tide. John Logan's text. I blame John for this. The ebbing tide to the save. But just 4 hours later, after the successful opening, the third bridge was hauled ashore and it served its purpose. So in 2015, Ormston House invited us to show the archive of the work, which we did. And the gallery at Ormston House was an appropriate setting for the work, as it was the first place occupied us as artists in 1985, a group called Opus Ten Sorts. And the first image of the poster was created by Martin Shannon. The work had 3 elements. It was a photographic record of the installation of the original third bridge in 1983. The second, an archive of contemporary documents illustrating the context within the original project which framed and realised. And the third is a site-specific installation at Sylvester O'Halloran Bridge, close to the site of the original third bridge. I found this recently, that was back last year, and then I asked Pat Lyson to come on board, no pun intended, to create the project as a ferry. So the close to the site of the original third bridge, the flowing yellow flags, a dancing curtain with the escape bridge, in Cage Bridge, a fantastical spectacle on the river and the cityscape commemorate the journey of 5 to 2 in the summer 1983. That was John's text. So Pat joined us and brought us across we ended up doing a ferry service at the Open and Culture Night. It was the closing of our exhibition in Ormston House, and we had hung flags on the bridge, as I mentioned earlier, just to bring attention to that space, make people aware that there was already an existing space, without mentioning the proposed bridge. We were kind of consciously aware of it, but without using that language. We were referring to our own language. I think it's much more interesting. Yellow being a colour in America for a bridge, a warning for a bridge. 3,000 people turned up at night for the ferry crossing. Pat did about 30 runs. He gave him €100. He spends a lot more money than that. But it was really exciting and opened up the space to the boardwalk and to the bridge and to the river. Just to remind, art has the potential, I believe, to animate the city, to suggest new reasons of its history, to enhance the experience of living there. The citizen gallery creation and celebrating the city, its river and its people. And just one more comment on this particular woman here. It only serves to remind ourselves as a society, and I quote from the severely interdisciplinary artist and architect Martin quote, first step is to listen and talk with the residents where you are working. The second step is to involve the community in the decision making. The third step is to involve the community in the construction process. And the fourth step is to co-create with the community a project that they can contribute after you leave the site. Thank you.
1998. Has a wealth of experience navigating the riverways and the Shannon and beyond.
Hi folks, my name is I'm out of my depth here now, lads. Throw one up there.
It's on a timer.
It's on a timer, is it?
You take your time, Pat.
Started off last with the dredging of the Abbey River back in 1998, I think it was, and the building of the Abbey Bridge around the same time. That's the guy dredging there. He forgot a few rocks, and he had to make a roadway to get back out. It was uniform construction. Started the job, but it wound up with weavings of Innis. There they are, digging out the Abbey. That's just the lock, the Innis lock. And that's what really started, opened up the river. That was the barge they were dumping the stuff with. Vandals left it loose one day. It was tied up in the Abbey. And the guy went back to Galway. He was the skipper of that. And there was about 80 ton of rubble inside it. And it was a hopper barge. The bottom is open to drop the rubble at the lock over there. What's the lock, maybe? Ranks lock or something like that on your side. Get flour over there one time. Just outside of the water. Drove by the goose by the goose corners up there. But that's the Abbey being went through blocked off when they were building the bridge. There's the hopper barge on a stray. They've burned out 4 engines with that, hitting rocks. They started at the top of the Abbey dredging and into the hopper barge and into ranks jetting there. That's Sarsfield Lock being dug out. There's a lot of rock in it that they drill. Controversy over that at the moment. They opened the gates last Friday for a day and no boats went through. So no one knew. They told us on Thursday. They were opening it, sent down a man Friday, they had no customers. Nobody knew. That's them fixing, putting the gates in place. It's not actually the building guys. Daniel Street. On to the next one.
Yes.
They're building the weir there. You can see the big bund on the outside. They made a bubble when they were doing that, amongst other bubbles. They started filling up from Shannon Wine Club out into the river, right, heading for the courthouse or Curragower. And the water's coming down. It's coming near Christmas. It kept filling up, and naturally, when the tide was going out, it had to go around the corner again to get out the water, and it brought the whole weir with it. But this is it anyway. I had a second attempt.
Still there, man.
All the shite is around the river still.
Most of the stuff is still on the river bed.
They took it out.
100,000 tons.
They left it out.
Outside channel,
They left it there. It's gone down to Clancy's there now. That's right. Gone down to Eastwell.
That's right.
You know. So there's the tide in there, lads. I think it's hunky dory with the tides in. There's the wheel again. And what we're doing at the moment is I'm taking boats over the way. Because the lock was closed all last year. It was opened on the 3rd week of August. And well, everybody's finished their holidays. So only about a dozen boats came down. There's the Abbey being dredged. Remember the mistake that they did. This rock armour at the side and the 2 arches on Matthew Bridge are partially filled in, and there's concrete on the middle arch. Go back to that one in a minute. Concrete on the middle arch. So when there's a heavy flow, turbines on, it's like a funnel. You know, so bad job there. There's the weir again. from Curragower. I remember I was there the night we were filling that up. There was 18 trucks waiting to dump concrete there, and it was pissing rain. So the engineer went along to sort of concrete and get some swimming water in it. It was okay there. There's the bridge again. That's your bridge. You can see the speed in it both sides, and all you have is the middle piece. And it's like a funnel when the turbines are on.
Sorry about this. This is awkward.
Any questions while she's...
Have you noticed that at low tide today, the mud between Shannon Bridge and Coleman's Kilkee?
Yes.
That was never there before the wave.
And it's sitting up all the time.
Huge
that area. That's all.
slip. No flow to take it away.
It's a great river, lads. And
That's the
started
north.
to make it great. You know that we're really much to the west.
The pathways when I
Get west.
the pathways when I was on a boat, I was coxing a boat and we went up and down by Lumford and I couldn't, it was maybe 25 years, the overgrowth onto the water at both sides. It's appalling of the Abbey.
Yeah, but they're not
And
supposed to touch a tree.
30, 40 years ago there, we were rowing there 2 and 3 boats, no trouble at all.
It should be cleared.
It's just overgrown.
But you have the
It's
wildlife
frightening.
saying you can't touch a tree, but it should be cleared. So there is little or no wildlife in those bushes or shrubbery.
It's willow, it's mostly willow.
There's
There's a few stems left, it's willow.
It does, yeah. At Lowe, will just be able to go 2 things up there.
Correct. Oh yes.
Now they can only get up 1.
Yeah, I competed in races there with 2 boats. No trouble at all.
Well, you'd have 2 boats racing and 1 boat going to the start.
Wanted to start.
So you could actually have 3 boats
There
there.
are 3 boats on that. Now it's just about 1.
That's it.
I was appalled when I came down. And just for the record, anybody here, how many bridges do you go under? If you leave Limerick Port, so go under Sarchel Bridge twice and go up and go around the Abbey and come back. How many bridges have you gone under? It's all right, think about it. Carry on. Don't hesitate. Leave Limerick Port Club, go under Sarchel Bridge, up Abbey River, back down by Barrington's, and under. Keep counting.
Sounds like fun. Sound weird. I paddled around 3 times in the last 2 days.
Now, the Abbey is a dangerous river.
It is.
Deadly. For the people that don't know it. Especially strangers coming down. And you got to run into this Abbey River for the first time, but there wasn't a corner, you know, and the heights of the bridges and all that jazz. You know, so you need someone.
You need that?
Where you were.
It's still in the Abbey.
Well, I'll choose one go through there quickly for you.
Sorry for the technical.
Pitches, that's what this technically happens to work with us.
Story of my life.
Where are we now?
Well, about your operation.
There's one thing about the weir rats. You might know it.
There, I think we work.
The weir isn't level at all. It's level, but there's a drop of 4 inches or 100 mil. Would that be right? There's 100 mil every 40 feet or whatever. I don't know the distance between. The idea of that was, if it was just one level of concrete, the water might select one place to go over. You know, there might be nothing down the other side. So they dropped it 4 inches every second one, so that the water flows over like you see it. You know, nice cascading over the concrete. Now, there's one thing about the weir. There's a dish pass put in the middle of it. Dish pass. So you can see actually when the tide is out, you can see this different flow of water working out. So, people say, what do the fish want to wait for? Keep the tail up. They can go over Curragower Falls when the tide is in. They can go over the way when the tide is in. There was no need of this gap. But what happened anyway was when they opened the alley, they found this, the weir dropped. The hole in the weir, it's a metre wide, dropped the level of the alley. I couldn't very much. But what they dropped, so they asked me to have divers. So I got 2 divers from the Marine Search and Rescue for 200 a day each. And they gave us these slabs, timber slabs, 2 together, 3 inches thick, to drop them down. So down with the divers, give the slabs. Couldn't get the slab down, too far, it was timber. So they went back in again, and they made slabs. And
You mean Pat, they didn't know the timber floated?
No.
He is greenheart. No problem.
Tom engineers here. So
the wrong
they slapped the concrete onto it to give it weight. So they got it down. So they said to me, go back and get a couple of 6-inch nails. We drive it through. Hold them there. So I went back anyway, and the RE, the resident engineer, I asked him what was RE, and he said, river expert. So he said, what do you want? So they want no time, and I put 6-inch nails. Sent them back into me, he says, the nails would bust, says he, with the salt water. And there's no salt water out there. They had to get coach boats to tie them down, so they're still there. So when they're rot, they'll be a big shoop. You know, if they do rot. Anyway, Matthew Bridge. This is what it's like with 4 turbines running. Maybe, and if there's a flood on it, it's worse than that. There's about a metre of a drop. No, boats, some boats have nearly cut through that. Fellas on twin engines, they come up and speed boats kind of things. But there was 2 boats and they bottomed out. The tip wide. They gave it all they could give it to get out. And down went the arse of the boat, tipped the bottom. It displaced all the water, you know, and down went the boat and it tipped. So it's not advisable to go up there like that, waiting for some water to come up behind you, like a tide. This fella, I don't know what he was thinking. He went down by Truman Weir when the tide was in. But he wound up anyway on the bottom. He went to wait till the tide came back that night at 6 o'clock to get on that. You're gone again. We're nearly finished there.
We're nearly there.
We're going on too long.
Not at all. I'm just keeping it down so you can go the ones you want.
Is it boring? Yeah, that fella came from Cork. He owns Kingston Marine. He was the father. He was Paul's father. A couple of brothers, sons, he was the father and nephew. And Sheldock, I think, was the name of the boat. But when for Shamie Ryan stayed there all day, that boat really stripped. Curragower when it's flattened, nice and calm. There you go.
Thanks for putting up with all of our technical difficulties. So Connor, speaking next, and Connor, and then we'll have some questions. So Connor Sheehan, as most of you probably know, is from the Curragower Boat Club. The Curragower Boat Club was established in 1877. It's located where the Vikings landed, and where the ancient port of Limerick is where the club is located. And it is absolutely full of history, experience, and stories as I experienced today.
I've no idea which order they're in, so.
I should be surprised to see when they come on.
That's nothing to do with the Curragower roof. Okay, there we are. With our new roof, our old one blew off in 2014, which was actually a good thing because the old one was leaking like that. But anyway, we've done a lot of work on the club and it's looking very well. And we're delighted the way things are now. The club is opening up a lot. We're inviting more and more people in. We have newer members who are bringing a lot of light into the darkness. But it's a place we're very proud of. As Rosie said, it's where Limerick was born in 922. Tormador Helgason, a Norwegian Viking, came in with a vast fleet, and vast fleets in Viking terms could be 120 ships going up the river. So nobody was going to argue with them when they got there. So they were in power for quite a while until the O'Briens got rid of them. A brother actually, Brian Baru. City Council donated us some flower pots there a few years ago, so that's why we're showing that. They promised to do it every year, but they haven't been back since. Now, venerable members of the club, admiring the chain there in the front. Yes, and there's various boats being fixed, and there's lots of advice in the Curragower Boat Club. You'd never be short of advice. Throw your hammer at someone. More boats, yeah. Go ahead. Yes, go on. Yeah. Okay, there's the wheel. It's very nice, yeah. That's very nice. I suppose one of the things we're completely opposed to the footbridge. We hate the idea. That's a beautiful view. Not that of the last one. But it's unparalleled. And we look at it every day. Winter, summer, morning, evening, night. Tide coming in, tide going out. The birds, the boats being fixed. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, serene place. We figured out we've about 6 generations of people in the club, mostly from the island and that part of the river. But it's a place we really want to keep, and we'd fight like hell to keep it. If the footbridge goes past our front door, that's us finished reporting. As Pat said, the Abbey is dangerous enough already. There's a group that's trying to improve the navigation on the Abbey, and it's a very difficult job. But if the footbridge with the pilings goes in on top of that, you might as well just tie a stone around your neck and jump into the river. Save yourself time. This spring, a lot of the boys were painting their boats for the summer, and you could see their angling cots there. One of them was Andrew Dewey's, the nearest one. There's that picture. Did you delete that one? Is it? Yeah. Different expressions. Yeah. Sparrow there. Oh yes, fashion is very important. That's Sparrow trying on his new Christian Dior glasses. Philip O'Shea is obviously very jealous. You can see that there. That's that's the annual spring clean-up at the boat club. We throw out probably most of the good stuff that we had, and we're left with the junk. But anyway, that's good. Now this John Elliott is here somewhere. John helped us with this. That's a 1633 map of Limerick, and our club is just up there now, where the long dock goes in. The two towers that protected the port, this is the ancient port of Limerick now. Over there at the left-hand corner, there was one of the towers, which was used as a gunpowder store after the 1691 siege. And in 1693, the tower exploded, full of gunpowder. There was 240 people killed, including people a mile away killed by the falling stones. I suspect that it was some local man who lost everything in the siege and was watching the new city authorities in the port, walking around full of themselves, and he threw a match into the gunpowder tower and blew everything away. Yes, we like to have the birds. Love to have the birds around. It's nice to see them. We're doing a lot of work to encourage the wildlife around the place, and it's working. We restored the beach here. It was in pretty bad state after the main drainage work. They really tore it up. The diggers, they left an awful mess. So we're bringing yes, look at that. I took that in New England. The Gondola company, they build timber boats called gondolas. So I went in and I talked to them. And just like gandulos in Limerick, nobody knows where gondola came from or gandulo came from. Nobody knows the origin of it, but it was just interesting. But it was one of the guys working on the boat. Perry McMahon would know him. He worked on the island with you. And he actually asked me if you'd sent the money over.
He doesn't work. Anyone I owe money to, I don't know.
That was taken from the top of the Strand Hotel. One of the things that always is impressed on me at night, the only light you'll see from King John's Castle, City Hall, all the buildings all going down on Hartlett's Quay. If you see any light at all, there's only one at the Curragower boat club, and we're always very proud of that. So, thanks very much.
We have 5 minutes for people who want to ask questions to our previous speakers. Do we have any questions, or does everyone want to take a break? We have a few minutes. Okay,
just
go ahead.
You said about the way of coming the footbridge.
Yeah. No.
No, it's not one because people don't live downstairs. They have to understand what's going on with this community and that community, footbridge. You put bridge between them, they'll kill each other.
Yeah. I had just thought of it as being like when the footpath all around the island became, a lot of people weren't from the island were going jogging there, and they would have thought of it as being most dangerous down there, oh, be welcome, and they were surprised that, this is grand, and this is a lovely little loop. I thought that might add to it.
Yeah, the community is looking at it. On either side of the bridge, so if you link them, there'll be more coverage, there'll be vacuum, there'll be more people. So it's in that
toll them again. You're toll them. You have to say a Limerick or something to get
The rounds are free.
and the moment they just shoot across the river.
Yes.
In the 1880s, in Limerick Regatta, we asked the weir, the fishing, we asked them to take away 2 bays of it, ESP, and they said they'd look into it. They're still looking into it.
Sorry, what was it again?
The 2 fillers on the weir, it's currently been done.
All right.
It is being done.
Okay. Finally.
1980.
I have a question to the Curragower Boat Club. A number of years ago, I came in back in your heads about the Gandalo, asking questions, and they were busy putting together a new one with 2 young lads who were on experience. And I asked you about whether you had plans to do a Corm, because it's the other Limerick boat that's not much, well, it's not as famous as the Gandalo, but it's the one above the Laxfield at Cobra, if I'm correct. And have you plans to...
There's a man sitting beside me here who did all the research.
We've done that. That's done in 2014.
Yeah, he built one.
Yeah, so it's now there.
Must have been before we started possibly.
You can see it at the club itself.
Yeah.
It's at the club all the time.
It's been documented by the local history museum. It's been all the information by the local history museum.
But the ball is at the club all the time. You can see it anytime. You'll be welcome to come in.
Okay, we'll have a break just for about 10 minutes, just to I think we have some finger foods over here. Is there anything there? So if you want to get up and have it, just stretch your legs, we have a break, and then we'll get back in 5 minutes. Right, pass this. Thank you so much. Come on, guys. We'll come back and we'll get started again. We have John Elliott next. So John Elliott is an archaeologist and researcher for Digital Atlas of Limerick project. He's a committee member of the Dublin Archaeological and Historical Society, the Limerick Civic Trust, and the Irish Heritage Society. So John, we're not quite ready yet. Introduce yourself. Delayed a bit longer.
Obviously, I'm Limerick born and bred. I personally don't have any relationship with the river. The past brought me out a couple of times. Although my great-grandfather was the chief engineer of the Garryowen, he would have been on the hopper to bring all the flour out to rags. My granduncle was Jim McInerney, who wrote the book on Gandalo. Most people know his hand, but unfortunately I didn't know him that much, but I wish I talked to him more when I was a kid. There's a wealth of knowledge that once it's gone, and especially through the river, if you miss a generation, there's a generation here who know the river and how it flows and how dangerous it is, and if that's gone, if it's not for the next generation, that we are lost. So I'll begin with a basic history of the history of the river itself, and the proposed bridge will come up at some age. Basically, a map of Limerick from the SAW School of Architecture in UL, basically just stripping away the city as is, and just showing the Ballinasloe River, the Greeley River, the Mulcair, Ginas Falls, the Laxweir, Corbley, that when the medieval city was built in Limerick, and why it was here was because of the river. And even now, with Raheen and Castle Troy, it's still being hemmed in by the Greeley River, by the Ballinasloe River, and the Mulcair. So even now, the development of the city and how it grows is still being hemmed in by the city and by the rivers, and also the Limerick Navigation Park Canal, which joins in between. Why did the Vikings pick Limerick? It's the last 14 point on the Shannon. The Curragower Falls here, no ships can go up. And there's a 14 point for Balls Bridges and a 14 point for Thomond Bridges. So they can control all trade coming up. And they picked Merchants Quay for a good reason. This is jump ahead a good 600 years showing the medieval city. This is the Phillips Prospect of Limerick in 1685, which is taken from exactly this position. And imagine if Phillips had a drone and went up 300 feet, this is what he would have seen, the English town and the Irish town, still developed by the river. This is Phillips' plan the map that he did at the time, showing that the medieval harbour is still being in use in 1685, but by the Collis map showing Newtown Ferry coming up, the old harbour just by the Labour Market is being replaced. This is not the first time they tried to build a bridge across from English Town over. This is 1691, they were thinking about strategically doing it. And then in all old photographs of Limerick and the Custom House, it faces the river. The Jordan city faces the river a lot more than the modern city does. And the front piece of Ferry's history, they were proud of showing this is how people came into Limerick. The people travelled into Limerick by the river, and it's one of the first things they saw, and that view should be protected. This is the 1840 and 1900 map, basically just showing the area of the proposed bridge being developed as the new quay, the quays brought down by the Custom House. So all this medieval history and as we are custodians of it, is left protected structures. Blue is protected buildings, and the red is protected structures. They're legislatively protected by the government. And that basically, there's a bigger list than this. These are just the main ones that we have. This is basically from 1975 when Murray O'Leary was put forward by the council to bring ideas to develop this part of the river. So if you go up to the Limerick Library, there's draft development plans going back 30, 40, 50 years of ideas about Riverside Limerick. Some of them were made and some of them weren't made. This is basically just shows the dotted red line is from Castle Troy all the way up the red path down by Gabbett's Grove or the Park Canal and out to Barrington Spear. The green is the Riverside Quay, so there is a lot of Limerick that already faces the river, or that recreationally that we can use the river. This basically is a panoramic view of Limerick taken from the Curragower boat club, the site of the tower that Clancy was talking about, and basically just showing that this is the viewpoint that the Riverway wants you to see, but it already exists. I don't think there is a need for a particular bridge. The 2030 plan briefly does mention the bridge could include a new bridge. So that's a screenshot showing the basic development of who owns the property. You'll notice along Merchants Quay, it's public property. Most people think it's owned by the council and you can't go there. But obviously the council wants people to use that site. These are the proposed designs by AECOM, and then a fourth one done by Healy Partners. They are only ideas of how the bridge could be. They're not designs of what it was meant to be. But they can be shut down in numerous ways. Either that they block views, like here's what already exists, and that is the twin arch bridge as they have proposed. And that basically just shows how busy it is, as Pat was saying. There's Ball's Bridge, Matthew Bridge, Sylvester O'Halloran Bridge. Within 400 metres, there's already 3 bridges there. And stopping boats going up to Lough Derg is definitely something that we have to take into consideration. The blue route is a proposed route by the Riverway, showing it's basically get to King John's Castle as quickly as possible. But the red is the route that's already there. And people don't realise how long the gates are open. Sarsfield House opens at 6:30 in the morning to 6:30. The gate by the Widow's Aunt House is open at 8:15 and doesn't close till 9 o'clock in the evening. The potato market, that's the problem, because that opens at 8 and closes at 6:30. But there are gates, there are steps, there are hindrances for the existing riverside path. But it doesn't take that much to fix. It really doesn't. Here's a before and after photograph of what is basically a smoking area for the Grand Avenue in Sarsfield House. Even though there are possible plans in the 2030 plan to demolish Sarsfield House, it's owned by the OPW, it's kind of up to them. But there should be signage showing the time that the gates are opened. Paint the place, do it up. Basically, the 3D models I did years ago of the development of Merchants Quay as a public realm space, the Wild Geese Monument, the International Brigade Monument, the 1916 Monument, the medieval garden that was put there by Eilish Drake in 2014. And then, if you've ever noticed what this is, it's a medieval undercroft. You can see it across the way. Beautiful double barrel vaulted. I don't know how it's blocked. 2007 there was an idea of putting a boardwalk outside King John's Castle. It's coming back here and there. You never know, it might come back. The problem is the gates that Shannon Heritage put in. They put a turnstile or an electronic turnstile in. There's no reason to have that big gate block. And in the end, I don't think the Twin Arch Bridge is needed. I think the riverside view that we have is iconic, and the wording of the plans for the bridge was really an iconic, wow-inducing factor, something to have in the city. I think the view, the heritage that we have is good enough already. It's called Clancy. Sub Treaty City, a local brewery, also has Hellgate Lager.
Thanks, John. So we have Ger McNamara. Ger. So Ger is from Limerick Suicide Watch. Limerick Suicide Watch has 52 volunteers that patrol 4 nights a week in Limerick City. Our volunteers come from all walks of life and receive intensive training care at their roles.
It's a pleasure to be invited here tonight. The previous talks that have gone on were fabulous. So, just for you a little bit on what we do in Limerick Suicide Watch. I'm sure you'll see us go over orange jackets. It's going to miss us. This time last year we had no home. We were homeless, and thanks to Rainy O'Halloran here to give us a home, temporary home to base ourselves out of. That's our logo, Lindy, and you can see the bridges in the logo as well. King John's Castle, Spire, King John's Church, or St John's Church. We're now based out at the Tate Business Centre in Dominic Street, where Shannon Development have given us 2,000 square feet for 10 euros a year plus that, which is great. So we reformed in 2016. patrol between 4 bridges of Limerick City. Any case where there's water or anyone is likely to enter the water, we provide support to anyone that's around the water in distress. Keep a very close eye on stuff around the place. Our ambassador is Sinead Jennings, a Limerick grower from St. Michael's. We also have a board of trustees with local solicitors and stuff like that, hoping to attract the status. In the next couple of months will be a year old, 2 weeks' time actually. So we're delighted there's the Riverways building there. And we're also a member of the International Association for Suicide Prevention. That's a worldwide association. We asked to be members of the Irish Association and we refused this membership. Why we don't know. It's a government organisation. Moving slowly on. Okay, a bit about our volunteers. We have 52 volunteers with a backlog actually of 20 people waiting to come on board as well at the moment. All Garda vetted, and obviously confidentiality is a big thing. And for insurance and for life skills to be 25 years or over. Do 3-month probation, and with self-financing as well. That went a bit too quick now. Anyway, yeah. Okay, once the probation is finished, we'll give them 3 months to see how they fit with us and how we fit with them, because it's not for everybody. It may take them up the first night. It may be traumatic for them. They might see nothing for a year. But if someone gets traumatised, we have counsellors in place as well for ourselves. But as I say, it's not for everybody. Sometimes we just say, we're happy to watch what you're doing. If you're not, just let us know. You know? All the life-saving equipment we have are PFDs, jackets, throw bags that we throw into the water, in the water that we can get a throw back to them. It's electric rope that we can throw into the water to them and hopefully they'll grab it. Okay, it's particularly prevalent in young people with suicide, and there's 500 suicides in Ireland a year, 3 times higher than men and women. 500 lives too many. But for every one life that's taken by suicide, there's 20 more people that have been affected by that one suicide. And it's a huge problem in Limerick. As you see, we're surrounded by river. This is the training we get, the assist course. All the Gardaí get assist training now as well. Safe talk, first aid, CPR, defibrillator, to throw back. We go around the bicycles as well, and radio communication training. So there's a huge training commitment involved by the members. And we ask that members give, there's a throwback training. We throw the bags now, not the lads. There's the throwback. And there's PFD.
What does PFD stand for?
Personal flotation device. That's it there. It's hard to see when I'm standing there here. Mary's actually holding it there. There's a typical patrol. We have 2 patrols, 3 members each, 2 members on bikes. We patrol for 4 hours at night. We roughly cover 10 kilometres on foot and about 20-22 kilometres per night on the bikes. You can see us all around the rivers. That's what we bring on patrol, the high-vis jacket, all patrols, and PFD. The defib, the first aid bag, the high-beam torch, the defib was donated to us. Everything, we're self-financed, we get no funding whatsoever. It's all for the people of Limerick that fund us with all this running fundraising and all that. That's our base now above in the Tate Business Centre with a bit of a partition. That partition is actually finished now. Again, builder, everyone has donated their time, materials, labour, getting stuff done for us. Actually, the guys in Nev said, he gave us that photographs taken. He brought us up and down the river for a look, which was great as well. Okay, if someone enters the water, we have the likes of in Limerick, you have Limerick Marine Search and Rescue. They have 2 pontoons aside here in town. You have Limerick Fire Service as well, Fire and Rescue with their Swift River boat. They have 1 pontoon inside. Coast Guard Rescue 115, another one of the services. And we work closely with all of these services as well because we come in contact with them a lot, you know. Likewise with the Gardaí. And the first question we ask anyone that looks distressed, you know, are you okay? You'll be amazed to answer you that. You know, we might have spoken to him for a month. we might be the first person they've spoken to. And then we get a history off of them. So that's where we are at the Business Centre with our mugs, always full of tea and coffee. When we're training. And just to, as we're on the theme of the river, just to thank Pat Lysett would help out a lot when people enter the river and have not been seen that don't come up. Like the lads from Limerick Rescue or Limerick Fire haven't rescued, and Pat often goes down the river looking for the people in the river, and there's great commitment about Pat as well. And everyone around got to be with the river. So then basically that's it, that's what we do. We're out on patrol tonight, seeing with our lads, throwing a pack of biscuits. We're after getting spoiled now with food we have tonight. So we'll hold on a few bits and give it out to them. Thanks a million.
Gary McMahon. There is. So Gary is from the Uillinn Project. The work undertaken by the Uillinn Project is the expression in our own time of Limericks and Ireland's impressive remnants of boat buildings and boat handling traditions. We hope to give them contemporary forms that will enable them to live on.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I was asked to do this yesterday, so there's some slides that will emerge, and I'll respond to the slides. But essentially, we're a Limerick project. Well, we're a global or planetary project in the sense that our horizons are vast. Our centre is ever, and our margins are behind us, and all these lines. This is the main theme or focus of our work, which is the sailing vessel island. This is an illustration of her here. She's the last surviving Irish sailing vessel. She has a Limerick connection in that her designer and commander, Conor O'Brien, is a Limerick man, born in Ardagh, grandson of William Smith O'Brien, and his antecedents built St Mary's Cathedral over. I think there's a reference to his cousins kicking out the Vikings. So there is a Thomond connection there, Dalgash and all that. So this is her taken 3 weeks ago. 20 years ago this year, I set about bringing her back to the Falkland Islands, because that's where she ended up. She was commissioned by the Falkland Islands Company, built in Baltimore, West Cork, supervised by Conor O'Brien, and that her rebuild continues in that same way. So this is
that photograph taken? Sorry, where was that photograph taken?
In Old Court, in a shed in Old Court. Old Court will be outside Skibbereen, the port of Skibbereen. I think we'll jump backwards the photograph. This is our a very poor shot, but this is our under construction in 1926. She's timber, Carvel. These are the boats of Ireland before the advent of combustion engine trucks. And very interesting when you look at the piers of Ireland, they're built in Ireland and Dave Castle, they were all built in the sort of 1910. And within 20 years, that technology was gone. So no one saw the rapid advance of the roads. So this is the last example in Ireland. This is us rebuilding her. She has to be completely rebuilt, simply because we have ambitions to voyage in her, and we have ambitions to take people and get a license for her. So we took the decision to completely rebuild the vessel. And we did it through an education program. This is her on her way to the Falkland Islands after she left the Shannon Estuary. She was last in the Shannon Estuary in 1926. This is her here in Ilfracombe in the Bristol Channel. You can see she's a very elegant vessel. She's quite small, but she carries everything that a bigger sailing vessel of the time would carry. Square sail. And she's a kedge rig, so a very handy rig. And Bristol Channel is a bit like Shannon Estuary, huge tidal range. Here she is dried out, and the guy's ready for the voyage. I just threw this shot in, very grainy, but this is the sort of sailing activity in Limerick. This is in 1879. This ship had left San Francisco a few months earlier, sailed all the way around Cape Horn, engineless into Limerick with 3,400 tons of wheat and grain, just after the gold rush. So this, and about here, this is poor resolution, but you'll see little boats like the island, the one I'm just talking about, all along the docks here. The last of these boats, the last one sailing really was the Alzina until the 1950s on the Shannon, engineless. So This just gives a glimpse of the activity. This is a three-master windjammer, steel, amazing vessels. So, we wait. I'm jumping. So, right. So I brought back to Focus on a ship, and then I launched her in Dublin, and sailed around to West Cork. I was on the way to Limerick. It's a long story. I'm still on the way to Limerick. I promise to be here next year. I know a lot of people here have been listening to me saying this for 20 years.
We'll be there to greet you.
Here's Faulkner putting in the last plank. So I can assure you she's replanked. This is Douglas, this is Larch, Bavarian Alps. This boat is a composite of many materials, or wood species, I should say. Too much to go into here. You can see steaming hot planks. So this is really traditional boat building.
And she's clinker built, is she?
No cargo. Cargo. Vikings here in Limerick have the clinker. Or gandulas would be sort of the vestigial Viking boat. But this is taken a few weeks ago. You can see she's advancing very nicely. Now, we build a lot of the components in Limerick. We have a workshop here in the school, and the project, which brings about, it's attended by about 60 people we volunteer. But we build all sorts of other boats. But this is our main focus. And all these deck houses are all built in Limerick. This spar here, if you keep an eye on it, runs a bowsprit. And these are all fabricated here in Limerick. So you can see, she's a very full-bodied boat. Cargo carrying capacity of about 20 tons, and we hope to run. Wine was a very popular drink in the Middle Ages here in Limerick. It was the most popular drink. So people might know that. And we hope to reinvigorate that trade once more. We will have a license and a load line to do it.
What's the ballast going out though?
Pardon?
What's the ballast going out though?
Human. This here, our deck house has been built. Our workshop is in the LEDP in the old Krupp's factory, and you can see here. I wouldn't say like IKEA, but something similar. We fragmented the boat into many parts, and that's how we've gone about it. I was explaining that to Brian Shepherd. Is he still here? Yeah. So that everything would come back together again. Then we bring them down to the boat and on the deck. Health and safety wouldn't be the greatest priority, but you can see they're beautiful maritime, marine engineering, style, woodwork. This is made from recycled pitch pine, which came out of a building which was built in 1821, so it's beautiful timber. You can see the various components. This is all in Limerick being built. These are all the spars which are under construction at the moment. We'll ship these down in about 3 months' time as we begin to rig the vessel. There's about a mile of cordage on the vessel, so it's a serious rig. It's a square rig. You can see there's the bowsprit I was telling you about. So that's the car park in Krupp's, and so everything is shipped down to the mothership. And here you have traditional caulking. This is Oakham. This is Ted. Ted will be the father of the two great rowers. Ted. So there's a great community between Limerick and Skibbereen and that area. And there was a similar team in 1920. So it's a sort of a cyclical thing, always, like we're going back around again.
So Dominic over is he the same coach or Dominic
Clancy? No.
We were, well, Dominic has gone full time into rowing now. Sorry,
This is my talk.
Yeah.
My chest! This is foisted on me. Anyway, this is a great American book. I promise I'll give you the floor. But this is Matt Deer, and so people have come from all over to this project. And he's like a swallow. He goes down to the boat in the summer, and he comes back up to Limerick in the winter. And, there's the team here: Englishman, American, New Zealand, English, and local people as well. There are the odd sprinkling of violence. So, and then we build local boats, gamma boats, and this here is everyone recognises it. This is local boat gamma. So our philosophy is simply we look at the infrastructure, we look at the river, we look at the topography, and we build boats to suit what's there. We don't. It's the antithesis of building infrastructure for boats that don't suit the river. This river has a huge tidal range. And it is, as Pat pointed out, to navigate it takes skill and knowledge. And it's picky with bridges as it is. I have no issue, I don't really care what you do with the river. When we were rowing again, we row backwards, so we have to look over. So the less stuff is out there, the better. But I'm not going to get into that. So essentially, that's my little
Thank you, Jerry. So Dorothy Quinn. Dorothy, long Dorothy's on the committee of the Strand Rowing Club, and last year she was the president of this prestigious club who were celebrating their 150th anniversary. She's the assistant honorary secretary of the Limerick Regatta Committee, a master's oarswoman who enjoys getting out rowing on the River Strand, especially in the 80s. Dorothy was one of the first women who rowed with Limerick Boat Club. She owns her own information and records management company called DQ Limited, and she stores hard copy records and documents in her warehouse in Burlington. She advises organizations on how to comply with legislation such as data protection. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much. I think this formal presentation suits me greatly. It's only 20 seconds. I should have talked for Ireland, so hence I jest. I got asked to speak today at 1 o'clock. So hence the presentation was a lot more rushed than yours since yesterday. This is Shannon Rowing Club. Does everyone know where it is? It's on Sarsfield Bridge. We're the oldest rowing club in Limerick besides Curragower. We were 150 years old this year. I was president, thankfully, during this year. It was fantastic for me. This is my committee. On the year that I was president, Moya's here this evening. She was treasurer. There's Sinead. Also, we have Conor Gilligan, who's here on the left. He is our president this year. He has 8 daughters who have rowed for Shannon Rowing Club. So I presume that is probably Guinness World Record. These are our Irish oarsmen and women from last year. They're a fantastic bunch of people who are still training at the moment. 3 of them anyway are still with the club, and 2 of them are gone on to other clubs. College really. One of them is midwife, and one of them is on Trinity. This year we had a press reception. We had a huge gala dinner in the Savoy Hotel, and we had the minister came down for the press launch, and he was absolutely fantastic and very supportive. These are our people that would row with us, and we provide rowing facilities for the young people of Limerick and the old people like me. But it is a club that supports people and supports children. So if any of your children would like to try out rowing, send them down to us. We'd love to have them. These are our older oarsmen who have won world champion medals. It's gone. World champion medals, and they've also presented their Irish jerseys to us. There you go. Again, there's Ken. You know Kenny. Do you know Kenny? Ken MacDonald. He is an indoor rowing medalist. He's very prestigious. Brian Collins, and also Fergal. They're fantastic. These are 2 Megans, Megan Tully and Megan Carmody. They got their Irish jerseys last year, and we're very proud of them. They will be one of our youngest groups. There are trophies. The year that I was president, we undertook a big, huge archiving project. We got funding from the Heritage Council, thankfully, and they sponsored us to give our archive to Limerick City and County Council. If you'd like to go in and look at it, it's absolutely fantastic. It only goes back as far as 1904. From 1866 to 1904, we do not know where our archive is. We presume that they were given to the solicitors of the club at the time, so maybe it's in the basement of some solicitor's office in Limerick. So if you know any solicitors in Limerick, you might mention it to them. We're missing it. This is Jackie Hayes, the archivist from Limerick County Council, and this is William O'Neill. He's the historian who actually worked on the project with us, and that's a volunteer. So we voluntarily catalogue, index, cleaned the archive, put it into a nice, neat order, and we boxed it, last 3 boxes, and catalogued it and handed it over in a nice, neatly to Limerick's City and County Council. For the reason that we wanted to give it to the people of Limerick, because this is the people of Limerick's history. It goes back as far as 1866, and the letters that we actually get from them as well. There's one there from Phillips with O'Brien up at the top, where he got £100 for actually designing the actual and there's other fantastic memorabilia, how we got our name. It was given to us by a priest. And our colours. This is our gala dinner. These are our junior oars, men and women. And we're, as I said, we're very proud of them. And this year we've done fantastically well already. Have any of you been out at O'Brien's Bridge this weekend watching the rowing? No. We had over 900 crews entered on Saturday in Limerick Regatta, and over 900 crews entered in the schools regatta. And it was a humongous rowing event out in O'Brien's Bridge. You may say, why O'Brien's Bridge? Because it's non-tidal. You couldn't get 900 crews out rowing in a short space of time. We had a race every 4 minutes. So this year we had very successful. Also, you may recognise 1 or 2 people in the room. Tony Tyne. Tony Tyne is a life member of Shannon Rowing Club and a life member of Limerick Boat Club, and he's currently president of Limerick Boat Club. Tony was my first coach, and he has taught me personally how to give back to the society in relation to giving my time freely to the rowing club. He trained us freely and kindly for many number of years, and he's giving his time even now still to Limerick Boat Club. We also have Brendan Fine in there, and also keep going. Do you like my face? Look as if I'm in pain. We go on a Christmas row every year out in Paris. Yeah. And this is Lord Hill class, Lord Hill School. They won the Victor Lundgren Trophy, which is the overall trophy for the schools regatta. Many of the children in this photograph would have been with Shannon Rowing Club, but they're also with St Michael's. Justin's a member of St Michael's, also with at Lunkert and Castleconnell. So they all row together in races, and their points go forward on behalf of their schools. And we're delighted that Castleconnell won that. This is our new club, our members' room. So we have this year, each president would bring their own unique gift really to the club, and everyone would have a specialist. Conor Gilligan would be, he would have his own company, Woodbridge, and they designed the actual back room. And if you wanted to be a corporate member or a member like myself, you can join free of charge and use our facilities. Have you all been in the back room in Shannon Rowing Club before it's been done up? Yes, many of an event. So if you're looking to an event club, we're open for birthday parties and offers. And these are some of our members as well. Unfortunately, you may know that we cannot row from Shannon Rowing Club anymore due to the weir, due to the flow. And we currently have High Court proceedings in place that haven't been decided yet. And that is a great shame for a rowing club that has been there since 1866. We've had to go out to Anacotty. And if you've had, that was where I was turned over, if you saw. But the rowing conditions out in Anacotty are absolutely fantastic. And we teach our oarsmen and women to have respect for the water. Hence I turned over. So and if you don't have respect, it teaches you respect. So I would just like to thank you all for giving us the time.
David O'Brien is our final speaker. Where's David here? Last but not least, David is from the Limerick Civic Trust, which was founded in 1982 and was formally inaugurated on the 17th of February 1983. Limerick Civic Trust is a self-funding charity which initiates and undertakes a program of projects for the general improvements of Limerick's environment in conjunction with local authorities, state agencies and other interested parties. It's an independent non-profit making voluntary society and registered as a charity. So David.
There's a terrible muffle. First of all, apologies. My slides will be less than the little lackluster maybe compared to some of the people tonight. Thank you to, you might just say thank you to Lisa because she was very patient with me. And I just apologise to you because I'm probably the least qualified person here tonight talking about the river, the least engaged with the river compared to your activities. So from the Civic Trust point of view, the River Shannon and river engagement, and it starts with, in my mind, it starts with engagement and awareness of the river. And it's all very well, most of us come from either a family connection or some other connection where we've engaged with water before. But if you live in Raheen or Drogheda or some of the other places, the reason for you to engage with the water as a young person in Limerick is very limited. And access to the river is very limited. The steps that I would have gone up and down, and Gary and a few of the other guys here, as kids coming in and out of school, they're all bricked up now. There is no access, there's no, Miriam spoke earlier about swimming in Galway off on Salt Hill, the Black Rock. You can't do that in the river here. The baths are gone from Corby. I'm not asking that they should be back, but I'm saying that the facilities for people to engage, to wade in the water, swim in the water, to hear the water and to be part of the river environment seems to have been lost. And children nowadays will think of the river as something that their parents drive over bridges to get them from A to B, where there needs to be a sense of to create the engagement, there needs to be a sense of activity and an access point, a portal for those children to get to, or young people to get to the water and engage with it. None of these have anything to do with the river. Miriam mentioned earlier about the clean-up projects. This is the canal, the Park Canal. This is more than just a trimming and clean-up exercise. We've struggled with the authorities, with the state, where they've sent me letters to cease and desist from clearing trees here, because this is an SAC. And what an SAC means is no humans should be allowed. We did very little. We created this path. We cleared away. You can see we cleared away. When you walk down there, there's more trees now than there were before. Sorry, there isn't. There's less, but there is as much as you need. There's no. It isn't blanket clearance. It's selected clearance. This path is now crime-free, drug-free, all the rest. People can jog instantly along it at night. And again, I don't know where we're going, but anyway, these are all projects we've done. And I think I might have sent Lisa the wrong set of slides.
No bother.
So essentially, it really the point is that the river, it's this historic waterway that's come down, that flooded naturally through the plains of this area. And for years and centuries now, we've been choking it with embankments, bridges, and other items. And as we do that, we seem to have less regard for it, and we're engaging it less and less. While the people in this room might have a lot of activity on it, the city of Limerick, as per its population, is having less and less. So as children, a few of us here will remember the people sitting on the bridges at night fishing. Fish have gone. People will remember the number of boats and gandelos. People will remember the activity on the canal. It's all ceased, and there's very little of any of that. So there's less and less reasons for people to come and appreciate it. One of the slides I did have was a list of reasons to, oh there you go, I'm finished, thank you. There's a list of reasons for people to engage there. Whether it's heritage, cultural, whether it's fishing, whether it's the birds, bird life, whatever it is. But equally, the river is a spiritual thing. It's there. The sound of it, the taste of it, the touch of it. Maybe not taste too much of it, but it's there. I mean, there are places and moments of reflection that you can take on the riverbank are incredibly important. 2 days ago, Frank and I walked down on the Westfield side, and again, a path that a lot of the people in the room here would have cycled and walked for years and years is now pretty much inaccessible. Miriam spoke about the Kings Island walk, and I think you mentioned the walk on the other side, down the middle road. Yeah. And again, almost inaccessible. And we're struggling to keep them open. But engagement with the water starts with engaging with the riverbank. And once the riverbanks are open and people can walk on them, then we can talk about the shorelines and actually get back in the water. But it has to be an open access. People have to have a freedom to get on the water and have that accessibility. And I think that's what the Civic Trust view would be. Apologies for the slides. Apologise for my lack of qualification, and apologies for taking your time. Thank you very much.
Any more questions for we had 5 speakers, so I just want to open the floor to any questions that people had. For any of the people who spoke, can you remember who they all were?
Is it everybody else?
That's all of our speakers tonight, so have you any questions?
I can't remember the order of them.
I know. Well, I'll remind you.
Well, the first one was the one. Can you remind us of the order?
Yeah, hold on.
It's there.
Hold on. John Elliott started. The second group, yeah. So we're kind of taking questions from
So
this.
what I remember, there was a presentation about the shown by, is it the archaeological one? I can't remember that.
Me, probably.
Yeah, it was you. Yeah, and it was about the no questions about the what I want to say about the Sylvester Halloran footbridge and how that's not kind of and why they're going with a new option, perhaps. You know, I mean, I agree they're missing out on a lot of the riverside. You know, they're going to miss out the Hull Museum. They're going to miss out the bridge, the lock, and all that area around the lock, up towards the top of the crossway. But I mean, part of the reason that's kind of that they're going with it, I think, is the Sylvester Halloran footbridge itself isn't functioning as to modern needs, as in it's too steep for wheelchair users and all that kind of stuff. I mean, do people feel an attachment to Sylvester Halloran footbridge?
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
I think there is wheelchair access.
Yeah, he was a famous
I
doctor.
don't think the camber is that
No,
high.
absolutely, right, but the bridge itself
It's
is...
been noted that cyclists can't go over it, but if you're going over a small bridge, dismantle.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no problem. I wouldn't like to see the Sylvester Halloran Bridge go, but you could replace it with a similar bridge with a less of a camber and make it slightly wider. I mean, the 2030 plan includes demolishing the potato market. It's unfortunately a protected structure, so that would have to be delisted by the council or any objections by the people. So I mean, there are a lot of, there are some steps at the back of the museum, but there's another route. It just needs landscaping and a bit of forethought. I don't think it needs 18 million euros for a bridge.
No. So I like
less is more to an extent,
for me,
given the
extending the riverside is probably more important than curtailing it and diverting people to the castle.
For people with the Sylvester Halloran Bridge, it's often that the gates, that people don't know when the gates are open or closed. Or they go over Sarsfield Bridge, they go over by the Sarsfield House, and then by the time they get over by the potato market, the other gate's closed.
Yeah.
So just opening that up is it?
Just kind of push on another observation on your presentation. One of the initial slides actually showed the original weir that was outside, just across the river. On low tide, you still see it from this pub. It's actually one of the best places to see it. Is the the V that diverted water to the mills outside, just onto the.
But that's not. That's a man-made weir put into
but you
two
can still
mills on
see
the
it
inside.
really low side. Really low tide.
You can walk across. I've never done it myself. I've gone most of the way over in one way and most of the way over the other way, but you'd have to have local knowledge to get across.
Just when it comes to opening those gates, can we not open those gates and try it
For
and direct
security
people
do
down there? Because
the Widows' Arms houses and they do the Sarsfield House.
Yeah.
So they can coordinate. The potato market is run by the Limerick Market Trustees, but kind of run markedly through Limerick Chamber. And it's closed as a car park at 6:30, but all you have to do is close one of the gates halfway, and then pedestrians will get through. So you can give pedestrians another 2 hours to get across.
It's not a huge amount of effort needs to happen to make that happen. And collectively, all of those different key holders need to come together to say.
I went around and asked all the security
that
guards.
route that you have marked there, I don't think I've ever completed it. I went at it from different angles, and I've always kind of met an obstacle and kind of turned back. And as a result, I've never actually completed that journey.
It's timing.
Yeah.
Like it's my way to work.
Yeah.
And I love it. And
But that's not helping to visitors.
it's actually at the moment it's kind of on a fine summer afternoon. People who know about it who like to sit on the grassy slope between Castle and Tavern. Yeah. So there's a park there waiting to happen.
It's beautiful.
There.
It's lovely. It's really lovely over there. You can walk all the way down on here. Really nice walk down by the Curragower Boat Club, all along the river here. Get as far as the castle and then you have to go back. It'd be so nice to be able to get on Nicholas Street around the front of the castle. It would open up all of Nicholas Street then as well.
It's like a hidden secret at the moment. It shouldn't be hidden.
But by the county courthouse, that's never closed.
Yeah.
So
the back of it.
there's people over there now. That's a public space that should be used.
Yeah.
I mean, I've brought people here from Galway and elsewhere, and we've gone down the side by the grassy bank by King John's Castle and had a beer or two.
Yeah.
And he'd ask me like, so when does the crowd come here? he was expecting Spanish art, not Spanish, no, I don't want Spanish art, but he was expecting a huge crowd. And we were there for 5 hours, and a couple of Polish people in buggies passed us. Stopped us for a flag, but it just, it's untapped.
Resource-wise, not a whole lot needs to happen to make that work, you know. So I'm not sure who should do that, but maybe.
There's another gate beside the side of the Hunt Museum, and I did a project on that when I was in art college, and I looked at the newspaper and saw a big, from about 10 years ago, big announcement about this park that was being opened, which is the gate to the left of the Hunt Museum. And sure, I've never seen it opened, and also you can't actually access the Hunt Museum from the river.
It is open again now. They've just put one of those brown heritage signs in.
Okay, brilliant.
It's the only sign that says River Walk.
Yeah, okay.
But then again, Ned are based there now, so there's a lot more football just on that particular key, which is great. You know, a lot more.
And what about the gates at the back of the Hunt? If you're
They're working out that the security guard from the museum opens at 8:30, 9 o'clock, closes at 5.
okay, because Helen was
It's
trying
the
to get
opening
them
hours,
open
the
for a
opening
long
hours
time.
for the museum.
Yeah.
This gentleman here.
Yes, I take most of you have been down at Barrington's Pier, have you, most people?
Yeah.
Yes, and if you look across to your extreme right, 300 yards up from the dock gate, there is a tower there. Anybody know the name of the tower? It's called Spillane's Tower, and those who are involved in rowing is called the snuff box. And how the tower came into being, Spillane's, where Dunn's is now next door to Shannon Rowing Club, was tobacco and snuff. And he was one of those Spillanes. William Spillane, Mayor of Limerick, 1870. First chairman of Limerick Boat Club, founded in the Athenaeum of up in Cecil Street. He chaired the first meeting in February 1870. He never worked with the company making Crevenay or snuff, but he became the manager of the gas company in Limerick, and he built a promenade from the dock gate down to Cork and Ree, where the citizens of Limerick could walk in the 1870s. And in appreciation, the people of Limerick built Spillane's Tower. And that's how Spillane's Tower, known to all rowing people as the snuff box, its association with Crevenay and snuff. And by the way, he went to Crescent College, by the way. It's an amazing thing. And yet he was the first chairman of the Limerick Boat Club, who were of the other friendly persuasion.
Which was worse, the Jesuits or the...
Neither are they.
That one is only accessible now by sort of trespassing.
That is, yes, that is right.
So we went down there one winter, and there's a few people out shooting, I think, and gave them a wide berth. But I think we had to cross a field where there was some dry stock, and then a ditch and a bit of a hill. And I don't know how you get down there in summer with all the reeds and trees in full leaf.
And another problem is Cleves Bank from St. Michael's to Barrington's Pier. Totally overgrown. In the 60s, those before we could afford speedboats to go on the water, the coaches would cycle on the bank and talk to the crew, and cycle all the way to Barrington's Pier, which is just a little under a mile from St. Michael's to Barrington. It's now totally overgrown. It's just unbelievable, you know. And and there's old photographs, we have them, of regattas with 10,000 people on that bank all the way down to Barrington's Pier in the 1920s and 30s and 40s on the river bank looking at the rowing.
Now you can't see the river.
And now you can't see the river from the bank. Again.
Actually, there's one thing I didn't get to go into in my presentation was I did speak about the willow choking everything and how once that was farmed here as well. But we now have another invasive, well, that was a native species that can run riot if you let it. But now we have knotweed taking over that particular bank there, which is really dodgy one. The one further upriver where I would mostly do voluntary work is Himalayan balsam, and these are invasive species that basically choke out everything else around them and erode the soil. So the banks themselves are in danger of slipping away, particularly up in the Shannon Fields with the Himalayan balsam. And I'd be pretty worried about the bank down to Barrington's with the knotweed. It's in a bad way.
And I mean, those of us who are old enough, the Shannon versus Banks 1961 in 3 places. And the great Donach O'Malley was minister and he was in charge, and he did a wonderful job on the banks. because we had opened our new company Shell in Corprack and we were flooded. Absolutely. The Shannon broke its banks in 3 places, I think, right? 3 places. And then O'Malley, he was in charge of the Board of Works and he was an engineer. And they did a wonderful job on those banks at both sides.
I have a couple of comments. One is this is not what I expected. And it's great to see everyone here, and obviously everybody is very passionate about the river. I'm very passionate about the river and the city. I think that there are a number of things that have been said here tonight, but I think people need to broaden their horizons. The archaeologist surprisingly said it has huge potential. It has, but that potential needs to be recognised and realised. I don't think it is. I think sometimes that tradition hampers development. I think that when I came to Limerick 30 years ago, I can remember the person I came to work for. He said it turned its A on the river, and that's fact. Limerick was facing away from the river, and that was historical. It's got to do with the warehouses, and when the warehouses went out of use, there was nearly a gap between the river and O'Connell Street, and there was little or nothing on the other side of the river. I think that other than the city, kind of my other passion is for swimming. So water sports would be a huge passion. After 21 years, Home and Swim was resurrected. And the reason for that was, in fairness to Limerick City Council, the water actually meets European bathing standards, which is amazing. You have the Liffey swim in Dublin. I would not like to test that water. I think that we've got to start thinking about how to attract people down to the river. It is, I think, the biggest asset the city has. Why can't we think about having, during the summer months, a swimming pool? It's done in Geneva, it's done in Copenhagen, it's done all over Europe, or La Plage in Paris. I think we need to, why can't we have windsurfing? It's an awful shame to see the rowing going out to O'Brien's Bridge or out to Plassey. I know this is heresy, but if somebody put a boom across in the end there where the bridges are, you wouldn't be tidal. It may only be for 3 months. You could take it away, and the Curragower Falls will be back again. So I think there's got to be a level of thinking on the river. It is a huge asset for the city, not only for the residents of the city, but for people outside the city. People mentioned about Corbally Baths. I can remember when I came to Limerick first, Corbally Baths, the Christmas Day swim was in Corbally Baths. It's gone out to Shannon, out to the boat club out in UL now. Why couldn't it be in the loch beside Shannon Rowing Club? We need to start thinking outside the box and to use the river. And when that starts happening, and it'll be a slow process, I have no doubt about that, but there are things that can be done, but it will take good leadership, and I think my own feeling is leadership has got to come from City Hall. And it has already started. I think the walkways along the river are fantastic. I mean, the Home and Swim originally we started from Barrington's Pier the first time and came upstream all the way to Shannon Boat Club. Now it goes from Michael's up to the bridge and back down to Michael's. And generally speaking, we have the afters in Shannon Boat Club. But there's no reason why there can't be a gondola race. There's no reason why.
I think there is gondola races.
But I mean more. You know, it's. But you could have Shannon Boat Club versus St Michael's Boat Club. You could have nearly like the Limerick version of the.
We can't launch from our club.
We did have a race.
But why can't you bring? It's a question. I wouldn't be putting.
We've launched 4 gondolas this weekend. You're very welcome to join us racing.
I would say if people think outside the box, things can be done. That's really what I'm saying.
For the record, we had to put a slipway into the lay-by, and you can see, because again, the greatest mistake was ever made in Limerick was the filling in of Arthur's Quay.
Yes.
Yeah. The greatest mistake ever made by City Council.
Yes. And the second greatest mistake.
And I'll explain why. Because when the water came down from the Abbey and from ESB in Arna Crusher, it went into Arthur's Quay and meandered out and missed the first arch and went under the second and third arch. So both boat clubs, we had slack water and we could go on the water 1 hour after a coming tide.
Yes.
Now we have to wait for 2 to 2.5 hours. If we were so we can't get on now, we have to go inside. The biggest mistake ever made in Limerick was the filling in of Arthur's Quay.
I would say, unfortunately, in that particular case, we have what we have, and we've got to realise we have to realise the potential of the asset. Okay.
If you narrow a river, the flow gets greater and it becomes more dangerous.
Try swimming against it.
And that aphorism about Limerick turning us back to the river, we need a new vocabulary because that's jaded. And
Gary, it may be jaded, but it was fact 30 years ago. It was absolutely fact 30 years ago. Now things have changed, and in fairness, I'm talking about lots of things. In fairness, it has changed.
Clubs in Limerick, we have 500 years of rowing on the Shannon. 500 years, and I'm not including UL or Castleconnell. The 4 Limerick clubs, we have over 500 years of rowing on the River Shannon.
You see, just because buildings don't face the river doesn't mean that the community has turned its back on the river. That is to misunderstand. And the reason why the buildings on the 19th century and the 18th century weren't on the river is because it was such valuable in terms of trade. And also the wind blows a lot here and it rains a lot. And people, you just can't walk along the riverside. It's just, as an urban experience, it's too wet and windy. So, we need a new vocabulary, to my sense, about the river. And we need to talk about it, not as a resource, not as an asset, is another word that's used. And it's not, it is part of the river, it's a dynamic. And it's the relationship between the land and the river that is the city. It's both together make the one. The river is on a different time frame. It's on a lunar clock. It's a periodicity different to the land. The land is solar, the river is lunar, and it's a wonderful thing in Limerick. And then the tidal aspect is the most amazing thing about the river. And to try and harness that would be a great error as well. Simply, we need to teach people about the tides and the beauty of the tides and how they work and the rule of 12s,
That's right.
And these are the things that we need to talk about. We don't need to spend money on infrastructure. We need to spend money on language, on vocabulary, and to just have a conversation.
Take this man here.
I just wanted to make a simple observation, really, and I just heard about this from St. Michael's Rowing Club. And my observation would be that the river users, the people who are on the river for years, whether they're rowing clubs or sailing clubs or recreational, they seem to be almost unanimously, if not unanimously, against this bridge project. So the people who are there day in, day out are against it.
We're against the thinking, the thinking that brings it about.
Again, the river's actually kind of clogged up enough, if you ask me. St. Michael's want to row from Limerick Boat Club and hopefully Shannon Roy Club in the future. We want to row upriver without hindrance, without encumbrance, and the more structures you put in, as Pat ably indicated earlier on, when you concrete up Matthew Bridge, you put a big wall of water. So the more structures that are in the water, the more walls of water you have before it, and the harder it is to navigate.
Just to support what you were saying there, Josh, virtually all of the works that have been done to the river, the local river, have been done by land people,
absolutely,
engineers who have no knowledge whatsoever. When the main drainage thing was being built, that huge bubble was being built, as Pat said, with rubble all over the river to stem the flow. And the rubble, of course, afterwards was just spread out on the riverbed, destroyed the environment. But one of the engineers happened to be over at Borough Boat Club, and they were talking about this massive amount of rock that they were going to use to build the bund and where they were going to build it. And somebody said, but when the tide comes in, and he said it's tidal,
Yes, yeah.
The engineer,
Yeah.
we didn't know.
That's right.
And that's still the thinking.
Absolutely.
People who design tall buildings
That's right.
feel able to control a river.
Yeah.
They know nothing.
If you look at the map, that's all they look at is maps.
Half the
She's
people in
been
Limerick.
waiting patiently, and then.
Sorry, just for the record, half the people
And then
in
I'm going to
Limerick.
try to wrap it up.
When you tell them we have no tide, we have no water half the time, they're looking at, what do you mean you have no water? You mean the tide, we said the tide is 6 hours going and 6 hours coming. Don't have to realise that Limerick is tidal. And we're not
I'm going to
water.
let this lady speak here.
Sorry, just really quickly. I work in the learning hub down in Keely, so I actually overlooked the river. I moved to Limerick 11 years ago, and I have the most beautiful view. It's very hard to leave my job, my view. It's really beautiful. And one of the things I would say to everybody here, there's such incredible, it is a huge education for me to listen to everyone speaking. But one of the things is I work in education, and a lot of the young people that I work with don't know anything about the river. They don't know the history about it. They've never been on it. They've never been invited on it. They've never had a tour of the river. I mean, Pat has taken a few of us down the riverbank and took some of our volunteers that come from UL and LIT and some of our Limerick volunteers down the riverbank, and it was a revelation to us and our staff about the beauty of the riverbank. We work on that every single day of the week. We don't need another bridge. We need 18 million euros spent on community development, community education, linking each other up, talking to each other about the potential of education, learning about the tides, learning about the history of the river, creating walking paths, developing lovely resources that we know how to walk around the river properly, we know how to use the river properly and safely, get on boats, build a swimming pool in the middle of the city 3 months here. I'll be in it every day of the week if you do that. I go out to Castleknock for a swim, and it's absolutely beautiful. I think we should have a swimming point in the city centre for residents of the city. It's ridiculous that I have to go out to Castleknock to feel safe to jump in for a swim with a group of people. So I'd love to see all of those things happening, but I think we need to. This is a community development and education project that needs to happen. It's not a building project. It's not more infrastructure.
Well, I do think to do things like swim or the access down to the river, you do need to make changes to make that accessible.
Absolutely, but I think fundamentally if it's viewed more as a community.
Yeah, not
driven,
the motivation
project.
of a big wow
Yeah.
to attract people
Yeah.
in. How about a big wow for all of us here who love it already?
Yes.
That we can maintain and sustain. I mean,
Absolutely.
then people will go, oh look, Limerick's full of happy people enjoying their river. Why don't we go there?
I think everyone wants to increase
It
activity
comes.
on the river and access
Yeah.
to the river and the connection.
But a knowledge about what's
And inclusivity about the river, so include more of the citizens of the city in what happens along the river. Lots of people don't feel like that they can go rowing, don't feel that they can go sailing, don't feel they can go into them, they're not don't know how to swim, all of that stuff. So we need to get more people involved to build a coalition. I think.
So I'm gonna, to bring you into this,
Just
we
for
have
the
a lot,
record.
and now I'm going to close up now because
Yeah,
it's getting,
just one final
we have
point.
all
Just
these
one final
comment
point.
boxes.
Yeah, on the river, there is now rowing in all the clubs for people from 20 to 60.
Yes,
They can
that's
go
true.
on the river and learn to pleasure row
Yeah.
in all the clubs now.
We're up to 7.
You have to say.
And
I'm on the river and
we have a couple of events I want you guys to know about and please participate in. We're doing a community mapping tomorrow from 10 till 12 in Merchants Quay. This is a kind of innovative thing. We're trying to do this digitally but also manually for people to audit the environment around there so that we can see where do you want to walk, what do you treasure, what do you think is no good, where do you want blockages to come out so that we can collect that in a very physical way. And we've invited different kinds of users, people who are auditing tidy towns, groups, Purple Flag, the nighttime economy, accessibility, so we'll have people in wheelchairs telling us, can they get up and down that bridge? Not for me to say, they can tell us. Cyclists, the more people we have in that, the better it is. When we build up a lot of local knowledge and we can map it geographically, we can start to see where patterns develop or people have the same interests, and other people can see what people have thought. So it's one of our first times doing this. So it'll be a little bit rusty, and as you can see, our digital technology doesn't always work for us. But we want your help in doing that. We want this to be something people contribute to. We also have at 2 o'clock, 12:30 to 2, we have Limerick Open Navigation group giving a presentation. about the river, and also Dave from Nevsdale is going to have a slightly more expanded, as a business working on the river.
Sorry, who's giving that open navigation?
Sorry, I've forgotten now. I'm
Coleman
sorry.
Coleman Byrne.
Coleman Byrne, I'm sorry, no, I forgot. Coleman Byrne is giving that.
That's at City Hall.
That's at City Hall tomorrow.
12:30 in the small exhibition space on the ground floor. It's just in the main entrance. You go in around the back, and actually we'll have the doors open there too, where you were on that lovely public entrance there outside the council chambers. That'll all be open to us. You can come into us that way as well.
Okay.
So the other event that we have on is on Thursday evening in the Captain's Room in the Hunt Museum. We have Fáilte Ireland come to tell us about the tourism proposition that really started all of this thinking off about why we wanted to do this to increase the activity and their ideas about that. And then that is at 7. And then we have a second presentation from Waterways Ireland to tell us about it's about the policies about the river. So we have 2 presentations in the Captain's Room in the Hunt Museum. That's an evening event. And then finally we have a workshop on Friday morning back in the Merchants Quay. Oh, in the Fab Cafe. We were trying to get things out of the spaces where they're having. So it's in Shayla Fab Cafe in Arthur's Quay from 9:45 to 11:45. So we have an intergenerational workshop where we've invited school groups and older people, but everybody is welcome. We want every generation there. Looking at some design ideas, we have big maps of the place, and we're hopefully getting some feedback.
Can I just ask a quick question to clarify? Where is all of that information going and the ideas? Is it being fed back into?
So this is all about getting bottom-up input from people's. It's being fed back into the brief for the work that's to be done down there to increase activity, to increase safety, to make it connect people to the river.
Is the bridge a done deal?
No, it's not.
No.
Okay. If you want any of the information for any of the events, Limerick.ie relaunched its website today. It's now very user-friendly, so you can go in there, and it's very good actually. And actually allows you to put up any views you want as well on Limerick.ie now. The council wants to be more engaged with the public. So if you want to go in there and just put in Limerick City Engage, our full events are there listed on that as well.
And you can input into that as well, so you can get Limerick.ie.
Our website is on the comment sheets as well. Please leave comments, guys, because if you have something to say, please put it in the box so that we can record it. It would be nice to have. You don't have to put your name in there, just let us know what your thoughts are before you go. That's really important.
And we can circulate to you. If you sign up, we can circulate to you. So thanks everyone.
Thank you.
For coming. Thank you all.